Welcome to Sinkowitz, hosted by the fearless Linda Sinkowitz. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to Sinkowitz. My name is Linda Sinkowitz, and this is our episode 10. And it's actually our first hour-long program, and we're really excited about this. We're adding some new things that you'll see as the program progresses, but thank you again for tuning in. This week, my guest is going to be Phani Mantravadi. So you're going to stay tuned for him. He is with checkmyvote.org, and he has got a lot to talk about. But first, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about different states. And this week, our highlights are Iowa, North Carolina. We have some national information. We'll have our trivia question, and then we'll have Wisconsin. Then we'll go to our vote notes, which we're really excited about. And then we will have Phani Mantravadi coming on our program live. So thank you so much for tuning in. Now, our first state that we're going to talk about is Iowa. Iowa has a House Bill 928, which would eliminate the hand recount option for statewide and federal elections. And if Governor Kim Reynolds signs the bill into law, it would use the same computer equipment and program used to tabulate election night results. In the event of a miscount due to malware or computer error, I'll tell you, it would render the recount worse than useless. The vote in the House was along party lines, except for Democrat Austin Baith, who joined the Republicans 66-31, and the Senate was 31-14 along party lines. I actually thought that this bill should be vetoed because getting rid of the hand counts, no matter how you look at anything, no matter what computerized systems are out there, there's always a possibility that there's going to be issues. Now, the law itself had so many different changes, and how they do the laws is they end up crossing things out, highlighting other stuff. So personally, I did not think that this was a good idea. Well, apparently Iowa really doesn't care what I think because, or I should say the governor, because Governor Reynolds has now since then signed the bill. So she signed the bill, and it has so many different little things. I think they would have been better off just scrapping the whole thing and starting over from scratch. But that's me. I guess the election officials in Iowa think everything is great. It's perfect. There's no problems. We're just going to tweak this, get out the hand count. And again, if you have a machine that has issues and you're going to end up putting the stuff right back through the same machine that had issues, and they have all these different variations, like if it's off by this percent or that percent, then you could do this. I mean, they do add having other people watching, but that gets into a whole nother thing. So anyway, I guess that point was kind of moot. The governor signed that bill. Okay. It's not often that I disagree with one particular party that's pushing a bill, but I certainly didn't agree with that one. All right, our next state I wanted to talk about, and there's a couple of different things going on, is North Carolina. Now, North Carolina Governor Josh Stein, who's a Democrat, has a lawsuit against the Republican leaders over the transfer of an election appointment power, which went to the state auditor. Believe me, it's almost over, that whole fight that's going on. So the Supreme Court has ruled that North Carolina Court of Appeals did not break any rules by allowing the power shift to go into effect on May 1st, when a new state board of elections was appointed by Republican State Auditor Dave Bullock in a 5-2 decision. The Republicans have pushed for election power shift for years. So, as I said, this particular story, there was a shift going on with the power, and everybody's all upset. But the Supreme Court in North Carolina said, yeah, you can keep doing it before they end up actually hearing it. Now, this source was from the Carolina Press on May 28th, 2025. The next thing, people love to be number one, but I'm not sure North Carolina wanted to be number one with this. North Carolina State Board of Elections has responded to the U.S. Department of Justice lawsuit for allegedly failing to maintain accurate voter list. The North Carolina State Board of Elections, Sam Hayes, says, quote, "Rest assured, I'm committed to bringing North Carolina into compliance with federal laws," unquote. Now, the Department of Justice claims the state violated HAVA by using a state voter registration form that did not require a voter to provide identifying information such as a driver's license or the last four of their social security number. Now, Trump's executive order 14248, titled, quote, "Preserving and Protecting the Integrity of American Elections," unquote, on March 25th, 2025, to ensure elections are being held in compliance with federal laws. Assistant Attorney General Harry Dillon of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division has said, quote, "The Department of Justice will not hesitate to file suit against jurisdictions that maintain inaccurate voter registration rolls in violation of federal voting laws," unquote. Look at Connecticut. Woohoo! Woohoo! Please come after Connecticut Department of Justice. They are absolutely not following the NVRA, the National Voter Registration Act, HAVA, the Help America Vote Act, named the in compliance with federal and state law, and Connecticut, I'll tell you, goes right to the top. I digress. I'm sorry. I have to throw that in. I live in Connecticut. I have been fighting this stuff for almost 6 years. It is crazy. Trying to get the attention of the state officials to actually do their jobs, the election officials to do the jobs they were elected to do. And everybody's got an excuse. But we do have something that we are going to be bringing forward in the very near future. So maybe I might then be able to stop complaining about the fact that Connecticut is an absolute violation of just about every election, federal election law that we have, as well as state laws. All right. So anyway, going back to North Carolina, this is a follow-up to the Riggs-Griffin judicial race in North Carolina. Remember, we had the North Carolina Supreme Court. Griffin lost by 734 votes, which had 60,000 of those votes in question. So it wasn't until recently that he actually conceded, which is probably why the Department of Justice has now made them the number one to go after, because there was so many different legal things. In fact, this was the final race, I believe, for 2024 that was finally called or conceded at this point. So yay for the Department of Justice going after them. I'm just absolutely thrilled that our administration, our new administration, actually believes in election integrity. And just remember, it takes time before any of the legal stuff comes forward. As we start going into all of this, excuse me, again, it takes time. It's not something that is immediate. All right, something else that we had talked about last week was the Center for Immigration Studies has now picked up on what we had, Homeland Security's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Remember, we told you that they have made enhancements. So your Secretary of State, or who's ever in charge of elections statewide, or even, I believe, countywide, now have access to the national system. And it's a tool to verify citizenship utilizing the Social Security number. which you and I are not supposed to have anybody else's social security numbers. And this is not for us as citizens to use and look up the information. But I'll tell you, I don't see why you can't FOIA, Freedom of Information, your state or your local officials on how many non-US citizens they have found on the voter rolls utilizing the federal system. If they're not aware of the system, please make them aware. Yes, they can find out who the illegals are that are on the voter rolls within your state. So please encourage them to do it. That's something yourself you can follow up, find out, are they using it? And if they're using it, how many people have they found? We want this to be transparent. We only want US citizens voting in our elections. Or at least most of the people across the country want that, because we know there's some that don't really care and really want illegals to be voting in our elections. So that's it on the national information that we have. So now we're going to go to our trivia question. And I know this is kind of a crazy one, but are astronauts allowed to vote from space? That's kind of an out there question. Pun intended. So do any of you know whether astronauts are allowed to vote from space? And I do have to thank Tim, my technical director, because he's the one who's come up with all our trivia questions that you're going to be seeing on the program. You can thank Tim. All right, so now the answer is yes, they can electronically vote in federal elections. That's kind of crazy. Wow. Did not realize that, but yes, they can. All right, so now we are going to go on to Wisconsin, and this is from Wisconsin Public Radio. I do try to cite where the information has come from whenever I have an opportunity or it's shown to me that we have this information. So the Wisconsin Election Commission has now said small communities don't need permission to stop using voting machines. They must have at least one machine available for voters with disabilities, though. And that's from the HAVA, Help America Vote Act of 2002. So apparently, Russ County town of Thornapple, Wisconsin, broke state law when they switched from voting tabulators to hand-counted paper ballots for their April and August elections in 2024. Well, they got more than a slap on the wrist. The federal lawsuit was filed against them under the Biden administration, and they are appealing it. But the Election Commission in Wisconsin found that there was no probable cause to believe that that Thornapple, I like that name of the town, Thornapple. It's just different. Thornapple broke state law. I think it would be great for everybody to have the hand counted ballots. And if the numbers don't come, you count them once, then you go back through, and if something's off, you recount them again. I am definitely not for using the machines. I am absolutely, as you probably guessed, for hand counting ballots. Well, since we're on Wisconsin, we do have an alert here. In Wisconsin, in Madison County, your absentee ballots have been mailed for the June 17th special election to fill the District 1 seat on Dane County Board of Supervisors. Now, FYI, each highlighted section of the envelope must be completed. The absentee ballot envelope needs to be sealed, signed by the voter, signed by the voter's witness, complete with the printed name of the voter's witness, and filled out with the witness's address. Now, some of you listening to this are going, what? Now, mind you, we have 50 states, and in 50 states, there are 50 different ways of handling statewide and countywide and citywide elections. So we're going to be educating people that on different ones that different states have different ways of going about this. So it's very specific with Wisconsin on how you are supposed to fill out your absentee ballot, and it has to be witnessed. Actually, I think that's a great idea since that's where I would guess most of the fraud actually comes from absentee ballots. And if you have a witness signature and a very specific way of handling them, I think that's great. Now, so the city clerk in Madison, Wisconsin says, make sure you mail it as soon as possible. Don't hang on to it. You get it, fill it out, send it in. You can bring it to their office during regular business hours, or you can use a drop box outside Fire Station 1B at 316 West Dayton Street. Again, why are we using drop boxes? I mean, I'm glad it's in front of a fire station, but still, we should not be using drop boxes. We have mailboxes. We have mailboxes that can be used, that we have the postal system that gets us our mail every day. Or if you're near the city clerk, you can walk in. A lot of states have the drop boxes like right outside City Hall, which is really ridiculous. Walk inside, walk to the clerk's office or the election official's office, depending upon your state, and hand deliver it. Really. I mean, time and time again, you're going to hear me throwing in my personal opinion on things. And if you haven't guessed by now, I believe in actually voting in person whenever you can, except for extenuating circumstances. And I absolutely believe in hand counting ballots. Let's go back to how it used to be. And the use of drop boxes, I really don't see any use for. But that's me. All right, so next we are going to go to our vote notes. There is a video by Wesley Hunt. He is a U.S. congressman out of Texas, and this video was done on March of 2024. And again, my technical producer, Tim Harriman, actually found this, and we agreed this absolutely needs to be seen by everyone. You'll see it once you see it, you'll understand why. And again, he's going to talk about the fact that he'd been in the military. He graduated from West Point. He was a captain and he attended Cornell University. He earned his master's in business administration, a master's in public administration, and master's of industrial labor relations. He has served as a U.S. congressman since 2023. And after he graduated from West Point, he was an Apache helicopter pilot. And there's so many more things about him that as he talks, you're going to be able to see, but it is definitely worth seeing.
I'm here to talk about the left's soft bigotry of low expectations. Because it's the Democrat Party, not the Republican Party, that thinks so little of Black America as the people of color that they make the case that being Black in America means we can't obtain a government ID to vote. And that's not only a ridiculous assertion, it's demeaning and it's insulting. When it comes down to it, many of my colleagues on the left like to pretend that we're still living in the 1950s. Well, we're not. I've got some good news for you. It's 2024, and I know what year it is because I've been Black for just over 40 years. And I'm also the son of a retired lieutenant colonel who grew up in the segregated South. You see, my parents grew up in a Jim Crow South in the 50s and 60s in New Orleans, Louisiana. Their next generation, my parents had 3 kids. My sister, brother, and I all went to West Point, all 3 of us. We all served our country in combat. And I sit before you today as a sitting United States congressman in a district in a suburb of Houston, Texas, that's a white majority district, that President Trump would have won by 25 points, and I won by almost 30 points. And that doesn't happen unless we've made some incredible progress in this great nation. Now, my colleagues on the left like to say that common sense voting laws, including requiring a government issued ID, are racist, discriminatory, and burdensome. Do you know what my father had back in the 40s and 50s before it was even cool? A government issued ID. And continuing in his footsteps, I too have multiple government issued IDs. And while that might be shocking to many people in this country, people may ask, how's that happen? It's very simple. It's personal responsibility for all Americans in this country, regardless of what you look like. Sitting with me today is my global entry card, my military ID card, my Texas driver's license, my Texas license to carry, because that's how we roll in Texas, my congressional card, and of course, the good old-fashioned American passport. What sorcery is this? What am I, the Black Houdini? How was I able to pull off the impossible and attain not one, not two, not three, but 6 government issue IDs? Personal responsibility in this country. I fought for this country as an Apache helicopter pilot to protect free and fair elections, and having a government issued ID isn't racist, it's American. You need to have an ID to drive a car, to check into the airport, open a bank account. You need an ID for basically everything to be a responsible adult in this country, except for voting, apparently, according to the left. Black America does not need well-meaning liberals putting their arms around us and telling us how we should go to the polls. In fact, if you look at recent headlines and polls, you will find that black men specifically in this country are more fired up than ever to participate in the next presidential election. And I think I know why, and I'm really looking forward to these results. For the record, in the 2022 midterms in Georgia, it proved that election integrity and ballot accessibility can be achieved hand in hand. After the 2020 election, Georgia passed a voter election integrity law, and subsequently, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of Georgia, alleging that the Georgia law is discriminatory and aims to restrict citizens from voting. President Biden even called this law, and I quote, Jim Crow 2.0. Really? In my humble opinion, referencing Jim Crow for common sense election integrity laws is offensive to those who actually experienced Jim Crow, like my parents and their parents before them. In fact, the law wasn't discriminatory at all, because in the 2022 midterms, Georgia voters shattered voter turnout records across the state. And despite that record-breaking turnout in Georgia, the DOJ lawsuit is still pending. I suspect that it's because that record-breaking turnout resulted in a Republican governor being elected in Georgia, but I digress. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, which I tend to do. I have a lot of respect for John Lewis, but the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is not about protecting voting rights. It's about solidifying Democrat power nationally. It's about federal control over state and local elections, which, by the way, is unconstitutional. It's about diminishing the security of our elections. And voter integrity laws aren't discriminatory. They are required for a functioning constitutional republic. I'm going to tell you today, I categorically reject the soft bigotry of low expectations. Black Americans and people of color are proud. We expect more of ourselves. That's what Black excellence really means to me. And above all else, we don't need a new solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Let me be clear. Making it to the polls to vote in person with an ID in this country today is a very low bar, extremely low bar. We can do it, white people can do it, black people can do it, Americans can do it. And we should all want that for free and fair elections. If you want to be on the right side of history, you should reject the Democrats' party's attempt to wind the clock back 70 years. Because I'm sitting right here in front of you, and I'm here to tell you we've come a long way. Let's continue this progress.
Now, we want to thank everybody for watching the Vote Notes video. And we are going to be coming up to our guest. Our guest is Phani Mantravadi. Hopefully I've said that correctly. And he is from Michigan. He is the founder of the website Check My Vote. So let's go to Phani. Welcome, Phani.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, so we want you to be able to tell us whatever you can tell us about what you have been working on.
All right. Thank you for having me on today. My journey with election integrity began towards the end of towards the beginning of 2021, close on the heels of the 2020 election. And my concern specifically arose from the fact that me being not a US citizen, and with reports floating around that non citizens have been voting, I grew concerned because although I love America and was on the path of gaining citizenship through the naturalization process legally, I was worried that my identity may have been misused to create a ballot because of because of the news that I've been hearing that if a dead person can vote, what's to stop my identity to be misused to create a ballot. So that prompted me to get my hands on the voter rolls in 2021 of Michigan, and look for my own record, of which there shouldn't be any, obviously, because I do not vote because I'm not a citizen of the US. But from that point onwards, my efforts kind of grew organically, in the sense people around my area would ask me, could you check my address to see who's registered to vote from there? Or could you please check my method of voting as present in the voter rolls? So I was manually handling all of that, but then obviously a need arose where I couldn't do 50 of them in a day manually. So I started building this website, loaded the voter rolls of Michigan in there. So anybody can go to checkmyvote.org if you live in Michigan, Ohio, or Tennessee. You could check your address to see who's registered to vote. And not only that, what you would do if you find someone who shouldn't be on there, you could report them. And we have a network of 800 plus volunteers we've built over the past 4 years here in Michigan. Tennessee, we've got 150 or something. Ohio, we've got about another 150 volunteers. So they are the experts in this area. They know the law. They know what specific law applies, and what goes into actually preparing a challenge to remove a person that shouldn't belong on your address, for example, that they shouldn't be registered to your address to vote because they moved or whatnot. Uh, so I've been working on basically getting a new look for my website, because the old version was not really as easy to use. We just got it really quickly done. Like they say, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. So I kind of put something together that worked. But now, after the 2024 election, I decided to do a major upgrade.
So you actually have it available. The public can go to checkmyvote.org. And if you're in Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio, they can get that information from you, correct?
Yes, the site would show it to whoever put their address in. It'll show it.
Wow. And I mean, it's so impressive that you actually built this after seeing a need. And I should let people know the way I came across Phani was you were a guest on Steve Stern's program. And I listened to you speak and I'm like, my God, this guy's for real. Because you gotta be careful with some people that are out there with election integrity. So I had planned on reaching out to you, and we actually put information in the chat, and you actually reached out to me. I mean, you were on my list to reach out. We've connected, and I just think what you are doing is absolutely fantastic.
Thank
So
you.
not only are you working on this stuff, recently you testified in Michigan. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, thank you for asking. So I was invited by our election integrity committee here in Michigan that was put in place just about a few months ago, or maybe more than 6 months ago, to share my findings in terms of what is going on with Michigan's voter rolls specifically. And my concern, like I like your tagline with or your motto, right? Every legal vote, one vote for every legal voter. My work really fits into the part where one legal voter, and specifically because my attention is on the voter rolls. My goal is to restore accuracy to voter rolls and thereby restore faith in elections. So this testimony that I gave pertained to kind of drilling down into where the bloat in the voter rolls is originating from in Michigan. So I picked a handful of categories. Top one was the NVRA violations of Michigan. Although There were 300,000 registrations removed last month in Michigan. There are still 68,000 registrations remaining from December 2022 that I was
Mm.
tracking voter rolls month after month. And I was on Emerald Robinson's show too about this about last year, where we talked about registrations that are on the voter rolls despite the 2-year federal election cycle has, even after it has passed, they're still on there. But 68,000 still remain despite the fact that they removed 300,000. And my testimony essentially covered the deceased individuals. We're finding duplicate registrations. And when the SAVE Act was, there was a SAVE, our Secretary of State, Justin Benson, opposed the SAVE Act, saying it's going to disenfranchise married women because they do
Uh,
not know how to change their last name. Well, here, if you look at my testimony, you will see I provide a handful of examples because of paucity of time. We can't go over every example, but would show, I'll just make up names here, the Tom Smith living at this address so and so with Linda Smith and Linda Banez Smith. I mean, seriously, I mean, it's two different ladies. It's the same lady with two different names. She obviously knew how to change her last name, but somehow systemic the systemic problems with our voter roll list maintenance system somehow left two registrations for her. And there are many examples where those two individuals voted too in the 2020 election, 2022 election, sometimes 2024. So that's how horrible our list maintenance is. Covered some of that. And I also stressed on this aspect of transparency because initially when I launched Check My Vote, there were many people who were using my website, checking their own voting history, and they would see that their voting method shows up as absentee, or in some cases shows up as in person, or that they voted, whereas in reality, they have not voted at all, or they voted in person but it showed absentee. They would email me asking why my website shows that way. I turned them all to go to their local clerks because I'm not making up this data. I'm just showing this data as received from the Secretary of State, right? So
right.
over time, what happened was I get an email from the SOS FOIA coordinator saying, well, we're not going to give you the voting method field anymore.
That's how they solve the problem because there are mistakes or somebody has input something incorrectly.
Hmm.
Now they're just not going to let you have that information. That's
Right.
crazy.
That's crazy. So I proceeded to file a lawsuit against the BOE, and it's still in the courts. We made our final arguments last week, or last month, and we're awaiting for a judgment on it. Basically, I'm fighting for that field, the method of voting field, because we started to pull a thread and we found something, and they snipped the thread, saying, "No, you can't pull any more threads here. We're closing the doors on this field." So that's going on. That's why my testimony centered around transparency, saying when there again, we have to remember that transparency is needed regardless of whether there are problems or not, because transparency always favors the truth. And if you got nothing to hide, well, put it out, show your cards, show your work. Our Secretary of State says there was a glitch, case closed. Well, no, show your work, explain how whatever you're explaining away as a glitch is a glitch indeed. So you can't have a final word without showing your work.
Right. I mean, there's mistakes made, and other times, like back in 2016, in Connecticut, I had run for state rep. I was the third person going in because I was going to go out campaigning.
Mm,
And I found out, actually, it was a couple years later when I was going through the voter rolls, looking at stuff, they have it down that I never voted.
mm.
I
See,
mean, that's crazy.
that's a recurring
So,
theme.
this is happening all over the place, whether they're having somebody vote in your place or,
Hmm.
as you have shown, saying that there's some issues going on. They don't want to address the issues, so okay, we're not going to give you that information anymore. Like you're a child, like okay, you can't handle this.
Hmm.
No, let's fix the problem. Let's all be adults. And the fact that you've actually had to file a lawsuit for that is even crazier.
Hmm.
That's you know, and the information when it comes from the Secretary of State's offices across the country, all of them are done a little bit differently. And
Hmm.
they have so many fields of information. I'll tell you, you can ask my data person, Joanne. I
Right.
mean, it's incredible. But what you have to do is just show their data. So you're not manipulating anything. You're just showing them what you found on the data that was sent to you
Right.
from the Secretary of State.
And bringing much needed transparency to the doorsteps of the people is what the other thing that Check My Vote does, because there was no transparency. Nobody could go check, even on Michigan's portals, the website, the government SOS sites, you can't go and check what your record says like. So this brings much needed transparency to the people's doorsteps, which is very powerful because now people have a way to look up their information, and this is information that belongs to them. It's their data. They have a right to see it, and it should be accessible.
Absolutely. Now, I know you have some graphs that you wanted to put up. So do you want to explain what those are?
Graphs. Well, the
Well,
only.
not graphs, pictures, the stuff that you had sent over to
Oh yeah,
us.
yep. I can go over that. That this basically kind of sums it all up. What Check My Vote is all about, and what's our purpose. Our motto is to restore faith in elections by restoring accuracy to voter rolls. Now, election integrity is much more than just voter rolls, but that's where Check My Vote fits in. It's only relating to voter rolls, not any of the tabulators, any of the other work that other organizations are doing, which is also very important. But our goal is to put voter roll management in the hands of citizens. First, by bringing it to the doorsteps of people. Then, if people feel led to do more than just check their address and clean up their backyard, so to speak, they can go check their precinct or township to see if there is a empty lot 3 doors down, how many people are registered to vote from there, and engage with the local clerks, maybe other volunteers, and support each other in A, identifying regularities, irregularities, B, verifying the irregularities, and C, removing the irregularities, and D, tracking those removals. Because once things get removed, they can come back. You
Oh,
always
yes.
see stuff coming back, the Lazarus effect, I call it. So that is tools are available in
Yep.
Check My Vote as well. If something got removed, we flag it, and if it comes back with the same voter ID, we'll be showing it with the red exclamation mark, and our volunteers are able to immediately catch them and go to the clerk saying, "Hey, this was removed. Why did it come back?" That kind of stuff. So very powerful tools we offer.
And even though you joke about the Lazarus effect, we've seen it as well. Florida, as far as we're concerned, is one of the biggest violators of taking somebody off that has died. And then 20 years later, they come back to life again and they
Mhm.
start voting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening everywhere. And what we really need to do is, again, clean the voter rolls, see where the issues are, and not make things more complicated. I mean, in the beginning, at the top of the hour, we talked about Iowa, and now they're getting rid of hand counts. And it's just like, don't do that. I mean, we want to have ways of verifying because if everything is done by machine, we need a way of looking into it. So that's basically what you've done with the voter rolls because your background, are you an engineer? How did you come up with being able to put together your website? Or are you just
No,
naturally talented?
no. Well, actually, I got educated in India with a degree in electrical engineering, and
Okay.
you know, I'm shocked that I became a software engineer. No pun intended. But in 2000, I got interested in IT stuff because of the dot-com bubble that was going on then. I was like always learning new things. So I taught myself how to write code and build websites, and just a natural course of action where many people were asking me who's registered to vote from their address, like I mentioned. And I said, well, the website is a solution, a vending machine where they can check it on their own. So I started building it up, and I built a little bit, learned more, run into problems, have to figure it out. So it was all a learning experience as well as implementation at the same time.
Well, you have absolutely done a phenomenal job in pushing the states you're working on forward and getting some attention, especially Michigan, because you live in Michigan.
Mhm.
And again, I live in Connecticut. We all see all kinds of issues that are going on, and we're doing the best we can to get the information out to the public and find a way to fix it. Now, most people would think that if you go to an election official when you have found a problem, they would say, "Oh, I think we need to fix this now that you've shown me." But that's not how it works in this election world, is it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, when I came to the problem of election integrity back in 2021, a lot of the evidence was circumstantial or maybe theoretical at a high level, but my pursuit was to create hard fact-based evidence, basically bringing it to the voter rolls, to the doorsteps of people. They can take this to the clerk as an individual instance of a problem that they can fix, as opposed to a high-level problem. You go to a clerk and say there is problems with election systems. They can't do anything about it because it's a systemic problem. But if you individualize the problem and personalize the problem, then you at least have something at a granular level, from a home to a home to a home, comprising a precinct and then leading up to the state. That local action at a precinct level kind of adds up, rolls up to the state, and you have impacted the state level, by working at your local level. So that's the philosophy behind Check My Vote as well, precinct first.
Right. And again, it's accountability as well. Like, you take pride in what you do. You want to make sure your information is accurate. So do we at Fight Voter Fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish election officials across the country would do the same thing. I
Right.
mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great people trying to fix the system that are in the system, but
Mm-hmm.
they also get pushback as well.
Right. It's a
And
systemic problem, like I say. It's not individuals. We're not blaming clerks. We're not saying these clerks are doing a bad job or anything. It's a systemic problem. We have the
Mhm.
system called ERIC in Michigan. While clerks are cleaning up voter rolls, the system is actually dumping them back in. So how would you feel? You're sweeping the floor and someone is dumping dust on it again. So you'd get exasperated at some point, throw your hands up, saying, "I'm not going to do anything anymore." That's where the clerks are, really, because they do want to do a good job, but the systems that are in place aren't letting them.
Right. And Michigan has its own problems at the Secretary of State's office, which we highlighted last week,
Mhm.
concerning your campaign finance system that I guess you guys had. Then they hired another company and you spent $9 million and the whole thing doesn't work. Then you
Right.
find out that the second company owned the first company. And as I've told people, there is a solution out there.
Well, when you're spending
Michigan,
other people's money, you won't care to buy a good system, right? Because they're spending taxpayer money. And why
right?
would
There
they
is
think it's not their money?
Right, and there is a system out there that is working. People in Michigan, you got to contact the Secretary of State in
Mhm.
Arizona and find out what company they are using for their campaign finance that
Mhm.
they've been using for over 5 years without any issues. So, I mean, they're excellent. So,
Right,
Michigan, we want to help you out.
right.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Phani, for coming on. And people, how can people get in touch with you?
Through my website, www.checkmyvote.org. There used to be a contact us button, but with the upgrade, I missed it. But I'll be putting a contact us button there where they could kind of enter a message. Or Twitter, I got an X profile. It's Deluxe Cipher @Deluxe PSYPHER.
Okay, and you take donations?
Yes, we're always in need for it because we purchase NCOA data, and I have lawsuits
Right.
going on, and I also purchase the voter rolls. So definitely, any contributions would be appreciated.
So we encourage people to go to your website, click that donate button, check out yourself if you're in Michigan, Ohio, or Tennessee with your website, Check My Vote. So thank you again, Phani, for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. And I know we will have you on in the future.
Thank you very
And
much.
thank you. And I want to thank also Olivia Giamanco. She is our producer. Tim Harriman, he is our technical director. Matt Karen is our media consultant. He is the president of Karen Communications. And our executive direction and distribution is provided by OBBM Network TV. Please sign up for the OBBM Network TV. Share, like, it's free. Let everybody know about this. We want to get as much information out there as possible. And if anybody else has some information you want us to get out there, just send us an email to info@fightvoterfraud.org. So thank you again, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week.